6:36. Papa Youngson says, "Show your love." That's how we're getting into the newspaper review. Good morning, Bernard.
Morning, Caleb.
Oh, this morning on my way, I got to the police checkpoint. Policeman said, "It's Friday." I said, "Okay." So I will drink water. I said, "What time my car is finished?"
Why didn't you take his name? That nonsense must stop. It's Friday, so what?
It says Friday, so I should show your love.
They've put you in uniform to work. You are asking people it's Friday. Like, I don't even understand people.
It's like Friday is an excuse to ask for things.
Where did you see him?
Oh, this is the, let me quote that one.
No, code it.
Let me quote.
Why should it be? It's Friday, so you should do
It's Friday, you drink water.
This kind of things must stop.
Honestly.
You are a policeman in uniform. Do you know what the uniform you're even wearing means? And you are telling somebody it's Friday.
It was in flip-flops too, in this uniform and everything.
It probably doesn't even deserve to be there.
I don't know.
It's not on the proper operation.
It's Friday.
You should get his name and finish him.
He says Friday.
Look at me.
I should show him love. It's Valentine's Day.
You should give him what?
Yeah, I should show him love.
This is how that's how you destroy a country.
Yeah.
When people don't understand the importance of what they do. Yeah. Teachers, health workers,
police officers, security officers,
journalists, we must live above reproach. This is not the time to be asking for money.
Anyway,
guys, life. Anyway, Daily Graphic.
Yes.
Political class must hold itself accountable. Majority leader speaking. Front page story. Also, committee probes recruitment into security agencies. Page 13.
Yeah.
A Greek ministry rolls out irrigation for world creation in 8 regions. We'll give you the details of that. Meanwhile, Car Power threatens shutdown over $370 million debt.
My God.
And on the back page, 9 dead, 15 injured in accident near Wali Wali. Meanwhile, guess which municipality tops the district league table for 2023?
Is it Kokma again?
No, okay. Kokma is not in the top 10.
Oh my God.
This one is Sunyai.
Oh, nice.
I'll give you the details
later. We'll get into that, right?
The Chronicle follows.
Yes, please.
Canadian passport saga. Thank you, sir, but I want my case to continue.
Interesting.
Judge Kwesi rejects AG Ayine's withdrawal offer. The man is photographed putting his hand in his pocket. National service scandal is being probed according to the new DG.
Yeah.
And the scripture for the morning, 2 Corinthians 6:3. We put no obstacle in anyone's way, so that no fault may be found with our ministry.
Okay, let me take you online. Citi newsroom. 5-month-old baby killed in Boko as conflict escalates. Unfortunate story there. Ghana Health Service begins cholera vaccination today. Clocksack declares strike over births and deaths registrar appointment. Government's revocation of last-minute appointments justified. This is Austin Game. And Vitus Azim is saying Oforiatta has caused Ghana a lot of harm, and he's urging the special prosecutor to go ahead to investigate him despite his absence. And no Ghana card, no national service. NSA director is speaking. And power crisis looms as Car Power threatens shutdown over $370 million debt. Bernard.
The news center is leading with OSP's fugitive tag on Oforiatta is described as unreasonable. Nana B is photographed here with Kisie Jabing. MPP cautions against sensational statements. In other stories, court discharges Kwesi Nyantechi over number 12 expose. Majority leader apologizes over raid in Oforiatta's house. New Jabin North MP fears USA at the freeze impact. And internal memo under MPP recommended dropping Dr. Isiame's charges. This is according to Dr. Ayine.
Yeah.
So many headlines, Charlie, almost like 20 headlines. Afenyo Market supports cholera fight with
100,000 cedis. Yeah. I take you to channel1newsroom.com. Ahmed Ibrahim wants Chieftaincy Act amended to allow chiefs summon galamseyers. Nyantechi has learnt his lessons. Forgive him. This is Techi Ahen speaking. Sad one. Mobile money vendor killed by armed robbers in Kofrom. And Clocksack declaring strike is here as well. NPP to OSP calling Oforiatta a fugitive is a national embarrassment. And then there was another story I skipped earlier. Eastern region, 4 excavators set ablaze at Obuohu Fante. This is on citinewsroom.com.
The Herald has a lot of stories.
Yeah.
PDS campaign Julius Pepenya distributes NDC and snatches ECG MD job. Still in the energy sector, energy minister delays Mohammed's orders on ENI Springfield unitization conflict. Ayine lectures Dami on criminal law as he explains why high-profile political cases were dropped. GEPA, GIPC, and Shippers Authority bosses hold strategic meetings to boost Ghana's export sector. MIF denies illegal transactions in cash movement, says it cost or 13% interest. I'm not sure if the printing is clear. Calls for Mineral Commission CEOs Galamsey CEO removal intensify.
Right. Ken Oforiatta is traumatized, we are told, by accusations. This is Afenyo Markin speaking. I'm reading GBC Ghana online. And then also Galamsey Menace, we are in crisis. Lance Minister is speaking here. Deputy Minority Leader condemns political persecution in Ghana. And then if you go to Major Online, don't rush to scrap promised taxes if it risks revenue. Economist is warning the government to apologize and say, in the reality of what we have found, it looks like some of the taxes we promised to scrap, we were unable to do them. We'll get into those details then. Doomsor Looming is here as well. Why didn't you interview Oforiatta in the US as you did for Mahama's brother? NPP quizzes OSP. Government must balance politics and economic reality on taxes, says economics Dr. Priscilla Bafor. Labor consultant Austin Game backs revocation of last-minute public sector appointments, and meningitis situation is under control. This is the health minister speaking. Another committee has been set up, Bernard. Interior Minister inaugurates 7-member committee to review security service recruitment.
Let's go to the custodian, and then I'll bring you some other headlines on the publisher, and then we jump into the details. Remove new BOG governor CDM to Mahama. That's the custodian. Also, minority slum state-sponsored persecutions with a photograph of the deputy leader, Madame Patricia P.J. Ayago apologizes to Ken Oforiatta over house raid, and then Baumia speaks at Harvard University today.
Right.
The publisher leaves with the same story, Siama and BOG story, and the same story indeed, the state-sponsored intimidation stories. It's almost like the same book, in fact. And then the third story, majority apologized to Ken Oforiatta. So publisher and custodian doing the same thing. One of my favorite papers, the Catholic Standard. Put aside ego and indiscipline.
Okay.
Speaker to parliamentarians. Right Honorable is photographed here. Also the Nuncio. Do you know the Nuncio?
Thank you.
He calls on religious leaders to live Christ-centered lives.
Nice.
There's a very interesting editorial that is here. When the cycle of violence in schools haunts a nation. This is something we picked up on a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, 50% of prison inmates suffer psychological distress. You know, I like this paper because, you know, a lot of the papers we review focus only on political issues. This paper tries to also bring some very important social commentary. You know.
True.
So I feel like we need more papers
like that.
For example, there was a publication called the Legon Observer.
True.
You know, we need
powerful.
You know, a lot of these papers are always like basically just rattling.
The PMV answers and the professor.
Like one politician has said this, another politician has said that. I don't think that's the only thing we need. We also need papers that help us to think about ourselves differently. So I'll review the Standard today. But where do you want to start from?
I want to start from Haruna Iddrisu. Teachers will be happy about this, especially those posted to rural areas. We will implement 20% allowance for rural teachers. Joshua Bedia Kukumson writes for Daily Graphic, reads that the Minister of Education, Haruna Iddrisu, has reaffirmed the government's commitment to honor its promise of offering a 20% allowance to teachers who accept posting to rural areas. He said the allowance policy would be implemented as part of broader efforts to enhance the welfare of educators working in underserved communities. Now, the minister further stressed the need for additional funding to improve the country's education sector. He expressed hope that the Minister of Health would succeed in engaging the IMF to uncap GET Fund and enable the government to secure more resources to finance education. There is a point on curriculum reform as well, where the minister raised concerns about the disconnect between university curricula and industry needs, and said that universities must put more effort into science, engineering and mathematics education to ensure the country's workforce is adequately resourced. Now, he outlined a proposed resource allocation formula of 40% of education funding to go to teacher education, while 20 to 25% would be allocated to free senior high school, with the remaining proportion going into basic education. So some information on
I like the graphic front page story. I wanted you to give me some headlines, the details. Mahama Yariga has told the political class to be accountable.
Yes, please.
Can you give us some highlights?
So Nana Kunedu Ajiman is writing, the majority leader in Parliament, Mahama Ayariga, says it is dangerous for the political class in the country to refrain from holding one another accountable whenever there is a change in government. He said it would be a dangerous thing to ever happen in Ghana's democracy if a certain group called the political class were allowed to conspire to protect one another. Contributing to a debate on the floor of Parliament last Wednesday, Mr. Ayaga contended that the day we stop holding each other accountable would be the day the electorate will lose confidence in the country's democracy. I take the position that indeed the reason why voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable.
All right,
Bernard.
I will stay with the graphic and let me give you a back page.
Yes,
then
please.
we move. So for me, the story I found interesting today is Sunyai Municipality tops 2023 district league table.
Nice.
Now, what is the district league table? Let's start off from there. This DLT is an initiative that ranks metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies according to key development indicators. Now, there are 18 indicators. So we have health, nutrition, education, water, sanitation, energy, child protection, and governance. Now, the results are put together in what is known as the district league table. The 2023 version was yesterday. My only problem is that this is almost a year old, put together by the NDPs in partnership with UNICEF. Now, the majority of MMDAs in the top 10 were metropolises or municipalities located in the middle belt and the coastal zone. And most of the ones which scored below 50 were in the northern or upper zone. So, for example, the top 10, we have Sunyani is number 1.
Okay.
Ayawaso West, number 2.
Okay.
Yes. Sekondi Takrade is number 3.
Sekondi, okay.
And then number 4, this is in terms of the good ones.
Okay.
Number 4, Tema Metropolis.
Okay.
Ladade Kotopon, Nsawa Madrejiri, Klote Koli, Techiman South, Ekumfi, and Doma Central. So
Klote Koli is back there.
Yes, so we're in the top 10 actually. Actually, all right, we're in the top 10 again. Now, that lowest, this is my problem now. Savelugu, this is north of Tamale. Okay. Central Town in the Volta region. Kwewa From Plains, Eastern region. Kwewa From Plains South. Solatuna Kalba. All right. Mamprugu Mwadogri. These are Savannah and Northeast, respectively. Then East Gonja, Savannah again. Sechewa From Plains. That's Ashanti now. East Mamprusi, Northeast. Kwewu Afram Plains North.
Wow. And
then Central Gonja. So there's a big discrepancy. And this came forward when the UNICEF presented it to Dr. Nimoy Thompson, who is the chairman of NDPC. He emphasized the ranking must reflect the living conditions of people while calling for the need to focus on the impact of the report rather than just the numbers. He said more attention is needed to be paid to the local government, which he said seemed to be the weakest link in the development chain. Going forward, we are going to pay a great deal of attention to research, policy research. Some of it might be experimental research, which we then share with the relevant MMDAs or the government.
You know, it'd be good to compare last year and now. It's possible some are coming up because perhaps the standards have dropped, or is it because they have raised the bar and that's why they are topping? I would love that kind of detail in this particular. And there's a mobile money vendor who has been killed by armed robbers in Kofrom in the Ashanti region. Very quickly, a young lady identified as Patricia Nimako. She's believed to be in her early 30s. She's been shot and killed by armed robbers at Kofrom, a suburb of Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The incident occurred on Thursday, yesterday at approximately 3 p.m. while she was conducting business at her mobile phone shop. Now, according to eyewitness Nanayao, the robbers approached from behind the shop, brandishing firearm and demanded money. He said the robbers shot her twice and fled with her cash. She was quickly rushed to Menshia Hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival.
Now, let's deal with a lot of the OSP and the AG stories. MPP has responded to a number of these. I'm using the News Center page. 2, the opposition New Patriotic Party has rejected the Office of Special Prosecutor's declaration that former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is a fugitive from the law, describing the claim as unreasonable. The MPP maintained that since taking office in 2017, Ofori-Atta has constantly addressed any legal matters he has been involved in and will continue to do so with the current case. Addressing a press conference in Accra, Henry Nana Boakye, who is also known as Anabi, stated that once Ofori-Atta's doctors declare him fit and healthy, he will return to Ghana. He even, I think, gave an approximate date somewhere in March. He assured the OSP that the former minister would willingly assist with the investigations after completing his medical treatment in the USA. Now, the other legal matter here, as you've read, is majority leader has apologized over the raid.
True.
You hinted that in the first story you read.
Yeah.
And then minority is also accusing the NIB of double standards. So the Minority Caucus in Parliament has sharply criticized the National Intelligence Bureau for what it perceives as double standards in handling cases involving politically exposed persons. Speaking at the press conference, Deputy Leader Patricia P.J. accused the NIB of selective justice, while after inviting Minority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre to answer for his comments regarding the disputed Ablekuma North elections, according to P.J., this move unfairly singled out one political figure while ignoring similar remarks made by other officials. P.J. pointed to a glaring inconsistency while the NIB summoned Anodompre for his controversial comments, but did not extend the same invitation to Mustafa Gbande, Deputy General Secretary of NDC and the current Director of Operations at the Presidency. Gbande had made similar comments, suggesting the NDC would sacrifice the minority leader, Apenyo Making, a remark that, according to the minority, amounted to direct threat on his life and an incitement of violence. Gbande's comments are dangerous and criminal, incitement against the minority leader and a direct assault on the principles of democracy. Final one, still in the legal space. Actually, I'll give you two more. Court discharges Kwesi Nyantakyi about number 12 expose. We heard this yesterday. And Accra High Court, I'm still in the news center, has discharged former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi and his co-accused after a protracted 5-year legal battle. The ruling by her Ladyship Justice Marie-Louise Simmons came after the prosecution failed to call a single witness during the trial. Despite presenting 5 potential witnesses, the Republic was unable to secure any testimony, ultimately leaving the case with insufficient evidence. A significant stumbling block arose when the final witness, investigative journalist Anas Armaya Anas, refused to testify unless he was permitted to wear a mask. The unusual demand further complicated proceedings. Initially, the High Court ruled that Anas should unmask in the chambers, but later on there was a different ruling, and the matter has come to a standstill. So the man has been freed to go home. Then finally, in the legal space, thank you, sir, but I want my case to continue.
I see.
This is an extraordinary one. Page 2, Chronicle. Despite the Attorney General's recent halting of at least 8 high-profile cases, the criminal trial of Asin North MP James Dachi Kwesi remains ongoing. Now, it was disclosed during a meet the press session by AG that the MP's lead defense counsel, Achuchi Kata, had decided not to accept the offer to discontinue the trial. Accordingly, he has chosen to fight the case to clear his client's name rather than seek a withdrawal. As a result, Justice Mary Mamiekua Yanzu, presiding over the criminal division of the High Court in Accra, is set to determine the ruling date on a submission of no case to answer following the prosecution's closure of its case. I like this path. The man believes he's innocent. He doesn't want it to look like it was handed over to him on a silver platter. He wants to go the full hog, and we encourage such actions.
We look forward to that. Away from the political and legal side to the economy, government must balance politics and economic realities on taxes. This is economist Dr. Priscilla Bafo. I'm reading from my journal online now. Economist Dr. Priscilla Bafo has urged government to strike a balance between political promises and economic realities, particularly in the area of taxation. Quote, it is a difficult period, and I believe that there is nothing wrong if the government, the finance minister, comes out to say that we promised X, Y, and Z, but this is the reality. It is not possible. Dr. Bafo argued that honesty and transparency about the economic situation would allow the government to make more practical decisions without losing public trust. He acknowledged that rolling back taxes as promised may be politically expedient, but warned that the potential economic repercussions could be severe. The risk to businesses and Ghanaians as a whole is that if the trajectory that the economy is currently on shifts and we enter into another phase of turbulence, it will be quite disastrous for everyone. So caught between, being realistic, fulfilling your words, and in the face of the political reality, and then the politics and all of that, economics, politics.
That's the finance ministry. There are 2 other ministers who are sworn at the same time. And both of them are going through a lot of meetings. So, for example, energy minister is hot in a sense because Car Power is threatening shutdown over $370 million debt. Graphics reporting on page 20. We have this on many websites. The operators of the car power located at Abuaze in the Western region have notified the government that it will not be able to continue with the supply of power if the debt owed its company is not settled immediately. The company's representatives made this known at a meeting between Minister of Energy and Green Transition John Abdullahi Jinapo and officials of car power badge at the ministry in Accra last Monday. Now, the company produces about 450 megawatts of electricity to the national grid, has threatened to shut down its generation plant if the power distribution company, the ECG, fails to settle debts which amount to over $370 million. The company at a meeting with the sector minister acknowledged the negative impact a shutdown of the plant would have on the livelihood of Ghanaians, but it says it is left with no choice since the company could not continue to be saddled with the huge debt. So that's a troubling one the minister has to deal with. Now, still here on the ministries, our Greek ministry said they will roll out irrigation for wealth creation in 8 regions. So page 13 graphic, Ministry of Food and Agriculture has begun the process of installing irrigation facilities in 8 regions to provide all year round production of raw materials to feed government's 24-hour policy. It's been called irrigation for wealth creation. Now, can you guess the regions? Volta, Oti, Central, Northeast, Northern, Savannah, Upper West, and Upper East.
Okay.
Consequently, the sector minister Eric Opoku has tasked regional ministers to lead negotiations to secure 10,000 hectares of land for the project, which will begin immediately after Parliament approves the government's budget. And this is an interesting one. The 10,000 hectare target is expected to contribute to the country's potential irrigable land of 1.9 million hectares. We'll deal with this later. I wanted to just touch briefly on the editorial of the Standard.
Right.
And it said, when the cycle of violence in schools haunts a nation, and it says the recent violent clashes between students at Kumasi Technical Institute, KTI, and those of Kumasi Anglican, CAS, bring to light escalating student misbehaviors and general indiscipline among the Ghanaian youth. Yet another incident of student violence, this time deadly, occurred at Salaga Senior High School at about the same time. In the KTI CAS incident, students bent ties and threw stones wielding machetes. In the Salaga incident, one student lost his life through stabbing, while a pistol was retrieved from another student
in the high school.
Previous incidents of similar violence have led to student deaths. Growing violence and student disorder have become the order of the day. They are calling on everybody to take charge. They are adding their voice to the NAT call for an investigation into the issues. They are asking leaders in politics, education, and communities to recognize this is a serious situation and take serious action. I like the editorial of the Standard this morning.
It's lovely. It's a good place to wrap up on the newspaper review. Thank you very much, Bernard Avle. That was the newspaper review.